Up on Windows 11 Home, also on Windows 11 Pro, since version 22H2, 111. Additional requirements for optional functionality. H3 requirements: 5G support, 5G capable modem, auto HDR capable monitor, biometric authentication, and Windows Hello illuminated infrared camera or fingerprint reader, BitLocker to go USB flash drive, available in Windows 11 Pro and higher editions. Hyper-second level address translation, SLAT, DirectX Trigen from solid state drive, 118. DirectX 12 Ultimate available with supported games and graphics cards, spatial sound supporting hardware and software. 2-factor authentication, use of PIN, biometric authentication, or often with Wi-Fi or Bluetooth capabilities, speech recognition, microphone. Wi-Fi 6E support, Newland IHV hardware and driver. Wi-Fi 6 capable AP/router, Windows projection, Wi-Fi adapter that supports Wi-Fi Direct, WDDM 2.0, Windows subsystem for Android. Public preview, a supported processor and a solid-state drive, at least 8 GB of RAM, minimum, at least 16 GB of RAM, recommended. The basic system requirements of Windows 11 differ significantly from Windows 10. Windows 11 only supports 64-bit systems such as those using an x86-64 or ARM64 processor. IA32 processors are no longer supported. 106. Thus, Windows 11 is the first consumer version of Windows not to support 32-bit processors, although Windows Server 2008 R2 was the first version of Windows NT to not support them. 119, 120. The minimum RAM and storage requirements were also increased. Windows 11 now requires at least 4 GB of RAM and 64 GB of storage. S mode is only supported for the Home edition of Windows 11. 121. As of August 2021, the officially supported list of processors includes Intel Coffee Lake, 8th generation Intel Core, CPUs and later, AMD Zen and CPUs /APUS and later, which include the AF revisions of Ryzen 1000 CPUs, which are re-underclocked Zen and CPUs that supplant Ryzen 1000 parts that could no longer be manufactured due to a change in process. 122, and Qualcomm Snapdragon 850 and later. 123, the compatibility list includes the Intel Core i7-7820HQ, a 7th generation processor used by the Surface Studio 2. 124, although only on devices that shipped with DCH-based drivers. 125, firmware compatibility. Legacy BIOS is no longer supported. A UEFI system with secure boot and a trusted platform module, TPM 2.0 security coprocessor is now required. 94, 126, 127, 128. The TPM requirement in particular has led to confusion, as many motherboards do not have TPM support, or require a compatible TPM to be physically installed onto the motherboard. Many newer CPUs also include a TPM implemented at the CPU level, with AMD referring to this as FTPM, and Intel referring to it as Platform Trust Technology, PTT. 129. Which might be disabled by default and require changing settings in the computer's UEFI firmware. 130, or an UEFI firmware update that changes the default settings to reflect these requirements. 131, original equipment manufacturers, OEM, can still ship computers without a TPM 2.0 coprocessor upon Microsoft's approval. 132, 133. Devices with unsupported processors are not blocked from installing or running Windows 11. However, a clean install or upgrade using ISO installation media must be performed, as Windows Update will not offer an upgrade from Windows 10.134. Additionally, users must also accept an on-screen disclaimer stating that they will not be entitled to receive updates, and that damage caused by using Windows 11 on an unsupported configuration are not covered by the manufacturer's warranty. 135. 136. Third-party software. Some third-party software may refuse to run on configurations of Windows 11 that do not comply with the hardware security requirements, with Riot Games' multiplayer game Valorant, which uses it to strictly enforce its kernel-level anti-cheat component, being the first such example. 137. Reception. Pre-release. Reception of Windows 11 upon its reveal was positive, with critics praising the new design and productivity features. 138. However, Microsoft was criticized for creating confusion over the minimum system requirements for Windows 11. 139. The increased system requirements, compared to those of Windows 10, initially published by Microsoft, meant that up to 60% of existing Windows 10 PCs were unable to upgrade to Windows 11. 140, which has faced concerns that this will make the devices electronic waste. 141. Microsoft has not specifically acknowledged this when discussing the QTAF. It was also acknowledged that the 6th and 7th generation of Intel Core processors were prominently afflicted by CPU-level security vulnerabilities such as Meltdown and Spectre, and that newer CPUs manufactured since then had increased mitigations against the flaws. 90. 142. Speaking to IT news outlet CRN, a dozen independent solution providers all felt that they believe Windows 11 will be a meaningful step up in security, and they agree with Microsoft's strategy of putting security first. 142. Research Vice President of Gartner Stephen Klinghans felt that Microsoft was looking at the entire stack from the hardware up through the applications and the user experience and trying to make the entire stack work better and more securely. 142. Launch. Andrew Cunningham of Ars Technica praised the improvements to its visual design, describing the new Mica appearance as reminiscent of the visual appearance of iOS and macOS, and arguing that Microsoft had made a serious effort at making the user-facing aspects of Windows 11 more consistent visually. Window management. Performance. Assessed as being equivalent to, if not better than, Windows 10, other beneficial tweaks, and its system requirements having brought greater public attention to hardware security features present on modern PCs. Criticism was raised towards widgets' lack of support for third-party content, thus limiting it to Microsoft services only, regressions in taskbar functionality and customization, the inability to easily select default applications for common tasks such as web browsing, now requiring the user to select the browser application for each file type individually, and Microsoft's unclear justification for its processor compatibility criteria. Cunningham concluded that as I've dug into Windows 11 and learned its ins and outs for this review, I've warmed to it more, but argued that the OS was facing similar public perception issues to Windows Vista and Windows 8. However, he noted that 11 did not have as many performance issues or bugs as Vista had upon its release, nor was as disjointed as 8, and recommended that users who were unsure about the upgrade should stay on Windows 10 in anticipation of future updates to 11.90. Tom Warren of The Verge described Windows 11 as being akin to a house in the middle of renovations. but that actually using Windows 11 for the past few months hasn't felt as controversial as I had expected, praising its updated user interface as being more modern and reminiscent of iOS and Chrome OS. The new Start menu feeling less cluttered than the Windows 10 iteration, updates to some of its stock applications, and Snap Assist. Warren noted that he rarely used the Widgets panel or Microsoft Teams, citing that he preferred the WebHer display that later versions of Windows 10 offered, and didn't use Teams to communicate with his friends and family. He also acknowledged the expansion of Microsoft Store to include more traditional desktop applications. However, he felt that Windows 11 still felt like a work in progress, noting UI inconsistencies, such as dark mode and new context menu designs not being uniform across all dialogues and applications, and the modern settings app still falling back upon legacy control panel applets for certain settings. Regressions to the taskbar, including the inability to move it, drag files onto taskbar buttons to focus the corresponding application, and the clock only shown on the primary display in multi-monitor configurations, and promised features, such as dynamic refresh rate support and a universal microphone mute button, not being present on the initial release. Overall, he concluded that I wouldn't rush out to upgrade to Windows 11, but I also wouldn't avoid it. After all, Windows 11 still feels familiar, and underneath all the UI changes, it's the same Windows we've had for decades. 143. PC World was more critical, arguing that Windows 11 sacrifices productivity for personality, but without cohesion. Commenting upon changes such as the inability to use local offline accounts on Windows 11 Home, regressions to the taskbar, a functionally worse start menu, Microsoft Teams integration having privacy implications and being a ploy to coerce users into switching to the service, File Explorer obscuring common functions under unclear icons, using terribly sleazy behaviors to discourage changing the default web browser from Microsoft Edge, and that the OS anecdotally feels less responsive, slower, and heavier than Windows 10. It was concluded that Windows 11 feels practical and productive, but less so than its predecessor in many aspects, while its best features were either hidden deeper within, required specific hardware, direct storage, auto HDR, or were not available on launch. Android app support. 144. See also list of operating systems.
Very good. Did finish the whole document. We have 11 minutes, 10 minutes left. I actually think we can do this video in 3 parts. I'll just download this document today, but there's so many, I have to scroll, take many minutes. Yes, it was last edited yesterday. Very good. So we could keep it in 3 parts maybe. So I will read this next. That's 24 pages. We can maybe do that later. It's 8:30. But we need to charge the camcorder. And we can record. We can go to drink some cola. I will go start upload this and charge my camcorder. I'll do it out here. I have the charger there on the floor. I'm charging there. So very good. So I did read, no, that's the wrong bottle. I did read Windows 10 and Windows 11 today. So I've been busy. This project to read this PDF will take probably many months and years to do it, but I have the time to do it, so why not do it? So maybe somebody can use this video if they're not read so well English or they are sick and laying in the bed. maybe they are handicapped, maybe they are just lazy and like somebody to read it on video. But not many watching this, but not many watching my videos on YouTube. But it's not why I do it because I like to read it myself.